Solar Oregon, and this is one of our solar showcases where we highlight either new technologies, interesting projects with solar, or just kind of a more broad range of topics relating to solar. And today's presentation is going to be focusing on solar at the Portland Public Schools. So first off, a little bit about Solar Oregon. Solar Oregon is a 501c3 nonprofit that focuses on education, outreach, community, and advocacy relating to solar power. We do a variety of educational events, including events like this one, as well as how to go solar and storage workshops, solar tours, solarized campaigns, and other peer-to-peer education efforts. We are a member-based nonprofit. You can join today at our website, solaroregon.org, and our members' support is what makes events like these possible. You can also follow us on social media and at Eventbrite at Solar Oregon in order to find out about all the great events we have coming up. Speaking of, one great event we have coming up later this month, next week, is our Stracker Solar Showcase, which is going to be highlighting Stracker solar panels, which are new and exciting development in the solar industry that are actually being developed right here in Oregon. Now, in addition to our great members that help support these workshops, we also get support from the Energy Trust of Oregon. Energy Trust of Oregon is an independent nonprofit that provides access to affordable energy and helps generate homegrown renewable power. They serve 1.6 million customers of Portland General Electric, Pacific Power, Northwest Natural, Cascade Natural Gas, and Avista. Thank you, Energy Trust of Oregon, for your support. And one last housekeeping thing is throughout the presentation, if you have any questions, please feel free to stick them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We'll be going through those questions at the end of the workshop. Feel free to stick them in at any point in time. You don't need to wait until the end, though, of course, if you prefer to hold your questions to the end, that is your prerogative. But yeah, we'll be going through the questions there, so feel free to stick any questions you think of in there. And now, without further ado, I'm going to introduce our speaker, Aaron Pressberg, who works with solar at Portland Public Schools. Aaron?
Good afternoon, everyone. Good to be here. So my title at PPS is Energy and Sustainability Manager. So it's really encompassing everything related to sustainability and our climate action work, which of course includes energy management and renewable energy, which at PPS is mostly solar. Next slide, please. Quick overview of our district. We're just under 45,000 students, about 9 million square feet of building space, which includes all of our admin buildings, as well as schools. We have 81 active schools right now and just over 8,000 employees. Next slide. So I wanted to start off this presentation with talking about our commitment to the climate crisis and mitigating our impact on the environment. We've been doing energy efficiency and renewable energy work for decades, but just 2 years ago, we kind of took that to the next level and our board passed our climate crisis response policy, which is really rooted in climate justice and student education, in addition to making the impact towards emissions reductions. Next slide, please. A quick overview of the policy. It's split up into 3 pillars. The first one more related to operations, the second one, health and wellness, and the third, education and student engagement. On the right, you'll see our baseline for our greenhouse gas emissions, which is for the 2018 to 19 school year, just over 46,000 metric tons of CO2 equivalent, which is broken up there by our building energy use on the electricity and gas side, and then our transportation fuels and solid waste as well. The biggest goals, as you see on the bottom here, are to reach net zero emissions by 2040 and to also electrify all of our building infrastructure, removing all fossil fuels by 2050. And of course, solar is going to be a piece of that puzzle. Next slide, please. The 2 biggest goals we have related to solar, the one in which I just mentioned was from our climate policy for going net zero, but we also, within our sustainability standards, we have a goal to reach 5 megawatts of installed solar by 2040. And we currently, or our baseline back in the 1819 year, we were at 1.3 megawatts. Next slide. So this next part of the presentation, I wanted to outline our current portfolio of solar, and it's really comprised of three different buckets of work and three different major projects. So our first major project was a power purchase agreement in 2009, which covered 9 sites at the district. This picture specifically here is at Jackson Middle School. This is when the thin film solar was extremely popular, which we have since seen go obsolete and very hard to repair and replace this system. But it is still up and running and it is still working for the most part. I will say the pros of this system at the time were that they don't weigh a lot, and they also don't require any roof penetrations. So they could really go on any roof without really worrying about the structural integrity of the roof of the building. So that was a huge pro at the time. Some cons we've seen is that the adhesive does fail over time, especially in the Northwest where we're getting a lot of rain. So we have seen like windy days, rainy days where the adhesive will peel off and it will, flop over and we'll have to go and fix it. And we get water built up underneath. So there are some challenges to it. And as you see on this roof, this one has a little bit of a slope to it. So we have found that those are more successful in this type of solar compared to flat roofs where the water will just sit there without moving on down into the gutters. Next slide, please. Our second largest project was in 2015, where we partnered with PGE for them to install solar on 6 sites. So they essentially they lease roof space from us. This solar is not net metered, which means we do not see the financial benefit from the solar generation on our bills, but we do get lease payments from PGE. And we also do get to claim the RECs, the renewable energy credits on these systems. So it does count towards our emissions reductions as it relates to our greenhouse gas emissions. So that is a huge benefit. Next slide, please. And then kind of the next iteration of our solar was when we passed our first bond in over 2 decades in 2012, where we were rebuilding high schools. So in 2012, that bond covered Roosevelt High School, Franklin, Fabian, and Grant, and all of those sites received brand new solar rooftop systems as part of those bond projects. We did the same in 2017, where that bond covered Kellogg Middle School, McDaniel High School, and Benson, which is scheduled to open in the fall. And the 2020 bond, we have Jefferson High School in design right now, which will also be receiving a large solar array. And that'll be our next project that is slated to be built. So 8 sites total, including Jefferson, all bond funded and district owned and operated, whereas the other 2 systems were set up differently, where we had the power purchase agreement and then the lease agreement with PGE. So these systems are completely paid for. They are net metered and bond funded, where we used the 1.5% for green energy technology, which is Oregon State mandate for new construction on public buildings. So we have to take 1.5% of the construction budget on these projects and use it towards green energy technology, which for us ends up being solar as the most feasible way to spend those funds. Thank you. So this is just a bar graph of how we've grown our solar capacity over time. And if you remember our goal of reaching 5 megawatts of installed solar by 2040, we are well on our way. We're approaching 4 megawatts right now. And so this chart does not include Jefferson, but it does include Benson. So just kind of the trajectory of like where we started and where we're at. And you can see how it's grown over the years pretty consistently as we've been able to add solar to those bond projects over the last 10 years or so. Next slide, please. I also want to point out our energy and utility dashboard. So this is public. It's on our website. And we have everything from electricity use and gas and water and waste to solar information on here. So this is a screenshot of the solar data from Laurelhurst School in Northeast Portland. And that drop down that you see where it says Laurelhurst, that one, you can go in and drill down to any school that's on here and see historical data and also data over time and current data. So we update this about every 2 months. So you're able to see how it's generating solar. So this is just one of the tools we use to report out on our data and make sure that the community is aware of um, how we're saving energy, both on the efficiency and the renewable side. Next slide, please. So what are the benefits of solar in schools? I outline them here. Of course, you're able to generate 100% clean and renewable energy and also do that locally on site. For schools, a big thing is the general fund cost savings. So utility use is the second biggest general fund expense for most school districts behind salaries and benefits. So PPS spends anywhere from 11 to $13 million a year on utilities, which includes electricity, natural gas, water, and waste hauling. So any money that we're able to save there goes back into the classroom. So general fund expenses are really anything that relates to day-to-day operations in the district, which includes funding teacher salaries and funding school supplies. So if we can reduce that amount through efficiency and renewable energy generation, then we're able to turn that money around and use it for education. Of course, decarbonization is a big benefit of solar. And then another thing specific to schools would be the educational opportunities, which I'll talk about more on the next slide. So this was part of the project with PGE. So when we partnered with them, we wanted to make sure there was an educational component to the solar. So we contracted with Bonneville Environmental Foundation. They have a program called Clean Energy Bright Futures, which used to be called Solar for Our Schools, to create this dashboard. So we have this across all 6 of those sites that we partnered with for PGE on their solar arrays. And you're able to go in and look at similar to our dashboard, but a little bit more live. So this screenshot specifically is looking at a single day. So on the x-axis, you'll see from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. that day and kind of see how the sun comes up in the morning and how it kind of goes up. And this looks like it might have been like somewhat of a in and out of the cloudy and sunny days. It kind of goes up and down throughout the morning. But we partnered with some of our teachers in our Office of Teaching and Learning at the district to incorporate this into 4th grade science class so that they could learn. They did a unit about energy and they used this data as part of that in their curriculum. Next slide, please. Funding sources. So I mentioned the bond before. So that's how we've been able to do most of our solar. This picture on the right is actually a bike shelter at Grant High School that was part of the modernization there. That school reopened in 2021, or sorry, 2019. And so we were able to work with our engineers and architects to put some solar on that bike shelter. And there's also more solar on the roof as well at that site. So the bond has been our biggest opportunity for funding. But to supplement that, we've also been pursuing Energy Trust of Oregon incentives. So they will cover up to 90% of the cost of the feasibility study, which we are planning on doing anyway. But for some schools and for some customers, it really is an incentive to do it if they were kind of on the fence about it. And they also give you incentives to bring down the cost of the installation. So the contractor, the installer for the solar is able to take that incentive directly and then pass it on as a credit to the district. So we're saving money on the actual installation cost. And then other opportunities which we have yet to take advantage of that are local to Portland and also the state of Oregon. The state of Oregon has the CREP program, which stands for, I'm blanking on the C, I want to say Customer Renewable Energy Program or Clean and Renewable Energy Program. And so that's a competitive grant program at the state level, which is tailored towards solar and battery storage projects. Or sorry, it's Community Renewable Energy Program. It just can't. And then PSEP, the Portland Clean Energy Fund, is specific to the city of Portland. So we are looking into opportunities there, and we have some money coming in the fall that we'll be able to use. And solar is one of the eligible projects under that fund. Next slide, please. Oh, and that's it. So I guess now we have time for questions. And thank you for your time today.
Yes, thank you so much, Erin. I'm going to stop sharing my screen really quick. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to stick them in the Q&A box. But that was a great overview of solar at Portland Public Schools, so thank you so much. What has the response been from community members seeing the difference between, like, they've either just got solar on some of the newer bonds, like the 2017 bond schools? Were people excited about it? Did you see much community response?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, people in Portland are excited about solar. I think it's something that's very visible too. So students, teachers, community, neighbors of schools get really excited about it because they can see that it's there. They want to learn more about it. Something we're always trying to do more of is coordinate with specific schools to incorporate that into student engagement and learning opportunities. At Kellogg Middle School, we were able to develop a dashboard that's on a monitor in the lobby, so students are able to see that, and it shows real time building energy and water and solar data there, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I think there's a lot of things that the communities are passionate about in Portland, and mitigating climate change and renewable and working on renewable energy is definitely one of them. So we do get a lot of questions and a lot of intrigue from the community about solar specifically.
That's super cool. Have you, I know you said you worked with a fourth grade class to bring in some solar curriculum. Did you hear about any families hearing about it from their fourth grader and then pursuing solar on their home side or anything like that, or not sure?
I haven't heard specifically through that program, but I actually just recently a neighbor at Roosevelt High School emailed me asking they were looking into solar at their house, and they were kind of getting some answers they didn't want to hear from some of their solar contractors that they were reaching out to, and they noticed at Roosevelt that we had shades. They were not on the rooftop, but they were like window shades that had little thin film panels on them, and they were asking if we could provide more information because they wanted to look into that. So we did. I was able to send them the information and the cut sheets on that product. So yeah, we definitely get, and there is a lot of differences, or I should say some differences between commercial and residential solar and kind of how that's structured, but there is enough overlap that I think it was able to help them.
That's super cool. That leads me to another question of there's obviously rooftop solar, which we saw pictured a lot, but there is also solar on like a bike's covering. What other less traditional than rooftop solar have you pursued, or can you just tell us more about the window film? I haven't quite heard about that one. Love to learn more.
Yeah, um, I would say rooftop solar is probably the most common, and we unfortunately we deal with some vandalism, as a lot of building owners do. So the rooftop also provides a little bit more protection from vandalism. There was another picture on one of my slides, Franklin High School, where we built a covered canopy walkway that runs from the main building to the gym building. We were able to put solar on that as well, so that's another example of something we've done that's a little bit different. But bike shelters are popular. The window shades, we had uh, any west or south facing facades will get some more sun, so we try to make sure we're blocking those out to protect from heat gain in the afternoons. But we were able to, at Roosevelt specifically, put um, these little modules on the window shades to like just generate a little extra solar and make it a little more visible.
That's super cool, yeah. Take every ounce we can. I mean, it's generating the heat and the power anyway. We might as well harness it if we can.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
have any of the buildings been equipped with a battery backup?
Not yet. For us, it's a little bit new technology. It's something we're interested in. I know Energy Trust is doing a lot of research on rolling out some incentive programs related to energy resilience specifically, which would include battery backup. We haven't quite gotten to that point yet, but it's something we're looking into um, for new design in future buildings.
Maybe for the next bond, it can include batteries for some of the new schools that still need to be updated or something.
Yeah, I
Something
hope so.
future looking.
Yeah, that's what I'm pushing for. And I think with the Energy Trust support in their program, it'll be we'll at least be able to look into it and do some feasibility studies for it.
While you did acknowledge residential and commercial solar are different, do you have any advice for anyone who's interested in getting solar for their home?
Yeah, I think using the Energy Trust Solar Trade Ally website. So you can go to their website and search for trade allies, and you can toggle for different types of projects. So if you select residential solar and put in your zip code, it'll give you um, all the contractors that are verified um, to work with Energy Trust and to be a certified installer for residential solar. So I would start there. I mean, there's so many companies out there, so I think it depends on if you're looking for someone that's close by or someone that's highly rated. I guess you can look at reviews online for those companies. But that's where I would start, and making sure that you're doing your own research um, on the incentives available through Energy Trust. And don't necessarily rely on the contractor to tell you what those are. But it'd probably be beneficial to look into that yourself.
Absolutely. The Energy Trust of Oregon solar bid tool is also something that we here at Solar Oregon recommend using. We also do a monthly how to go solar and storage workshop. So if you're pretty overwhelmed with all the information you can find online, that's also a great place to get started. You mentioned the 2020 bond, and I forget which high school was attached to it, but it was one of the
Jefferson.
schools, obviously, Jefferson. Are there any other projects coming down the pipeline that the community can look forward to?
Yeah, so the 2020 bond also funded design for the modernization at Ida B. Wells and Cleveland High School. So those will be our last two high schools to be modernized. And the construction is not funded yet. We're hoping that we can pass a future bond to fund that construction, but the design is underway for both of those schools as well. We're already discussing solar and potential battery backup opportunities for those two projects.
That's super cool, paving the way for the future and getting ready for it. Um, think I'll ask one more question. If we don't have any other questions come through into our Q&A, we can end a little bit early today, but if you have any questions, please ask them. We are happy to stay on and answer all the questions you have. We want to answer everyone's questions. Um, if people aren't in the Portland public school systems but want to advocate for solar within their own school systems or within their own communities, what would be the best way, or if they want to advocate for more solar and more renewable within the Portland public school system, what would be the best avenues to go about that? How can the community get their voice heard on that front?
Yeah, I would say within PPS, um, our contact information is on our website. That's pps.net/sustainability. You can always reach out to us if you have questions or want to learn more about anything related to our work. Um, sometimes for the larger bond projects, we have public input meetings and ways to get involved there. So that's a good way to get your voices heard as it relates to some of those larger modernization projects. And then elsewhere outside of PPS, I think just finding out the right people to reach out to at your district. That's probably the best way. Sometimes it means you have to go to a board meeting and advocate through public comment. But I would say first stop would be look on the website for your local district and try to find somebody that is either working in facilities or construction or operations, um, or if they have a sustainability or energy management department, there might be some contact information on the website and you can reach out to them directly.
Awesome. Those are some great ideas and great advice for everyone. We did receive a question from one of our participants today. Amelia asked, will PPS schools be able to draw power from their solar installations, or are they only feeding power back to the power company? Can solar support resiliency efforts during a power outage event?
Yeah, great question. We touched on this a little bit. I think right now our systems are all net metered, so they are going back to the grid, back to the utility or the electricity companies. I think for the next frontier for us is to incorporate battery storage where we can either use that for an outage and for in a resiliency way, or that we can store that and then use it during like high peak demand times so we can help offset our demand charges and also help the grid be a little bit more flexible just in the broader community. Um, what we have been doing is in our smaller sites, some of our K5s, we do have battery backup systems for the egress lighting. So we're trying to get off of diesel generators and move towards battery backup systems. It just for a comprehensive high school, and we're talking about like 750 kilowatt on backup power, something really huge. The battery technology, the space constraints are a real barrier, and the cost is also a barrier. So it's something that we're continuing to research and keep our eye on the technology. Um, but for a large high school application with so much on the backup power, it's been hard to find the space and both the physical space, but also the space in the budget. So that's our hope is to eventually get there. But we have been piloting that with battery backup for small sites with egress lighting on backup power.
Thank you. And I'll add a little bit more context just defining a few of the terms Aaron used with net metering. And Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, if it's different on the commercial side, but the schools are getting a financial compensation for the power they're exporting to the grid essentially, and any excess power they're generating is what's going back out to the grid versus being used within the schools. So that can vary depending on the day, and obviously in the summer when there's the most sun, a lot of the schools are not operating at their full capacity because students are out for the summer. So that's when a lot of that power probably is getting exported. And then from a safety and solar resilient or energy resilience side of it, solar panels on their own cannot export power to the grid. They have to automatically be shut off unless there is a battery backup or some other system in place that allows the system to be islanded where no power can be exported out to the grid and potentially injure any workers working to fix the grid in the event of a grid outage. So that's why batteries and the discussion Aaron and I have been talking about on why batteries are important for the schools matters, because that's the piece that will allow the schools to have that energy resilience. And we talk about net metering and energy resilience in more depth in Solar Oregon's How to Go Solar and Storage workshop. So if you do have more questions on how that can help you retain power during a power outage event, feel free to sign up for one of those webinars or check out some of the recordings on our YouTube channel, because we'll be going over those details in more depth on how you can utilize that within your own homes as well. Um, there are no other open questions, but thank you so much for your time today, Aaron. Can you repeat again how people can reach you if they have any questions after the webinar or if they want to get in touch?
Yes, so I think I left my contact information on that slide. And I know, Abby, you said these are going to be, or this presentation is going to be posted on YouTube. So you can find it that way. And also you can find our contact information for my entire team and myself at pps.net/sustainability.
And I will share my screen one last time just so everyone can see. There's Aaron's email in case anyone has any questions, and it'll again be also on the YouTube channel. But thank you so much, everyone, for coming today. And thank you again, Aaron, for your participation. I look forward to seeing more solar at Portland Public Schools in the future.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.